Number 1. I am a senior in college, and this took place about 3 years ago, when I was a freshman. I live on the campus of a local commuter college. My parents thought living there would give me the full college experience and the independence I need. Anyway, a few months into my first semester, I was in the library working on a book report for my English Lit class. The library at my school is made up of 2 floors, the lobby on the ground level, and the stacks a floor below. The stacks are composed of mostly long aisles of bookshelves, with a few big study desks scattered around. I was at one of these desks, working on my book report, when suddenly I heard a loud thud. I walked around the corner and saw a big book lying on the ground. It must have fallen off the shelf. I picked it up, put it back, and went back to work. About an hour later, I heard another thud, and when I went around the corner, I saw the same book lying on the ground. Now I was starting to feel uneasy. When I put that book back up, I placed it so that it couldn't fall again. This didn't seem logical. Nevertheless, I picked it back up and put it on the shelf. I turned around, and as I was about to turn the corner, I heard a loud bang. I whipped around and saw that all the books on the bookcase had fallen into a humongous heap on the floor. I let out a loud "holy crap," and as I did, the books on the opposite side of the aisle began falling off the shelves by themselves, heading straight for me. That was it for me. I turned and bolted back to my desk. I grabbed my stuff and hightailed it out of the library and back to my dorm room. When I got to my room, I sat down on my bed, reflecting on what had just happened. I had never really believed in the paranormal, but I had no other explanation for what I saw. To this day, I still have no idea what to believe. Number 2. I grew up in a suburban town near Charleston, South Carolina. I was 13 years old at the time of this story, and it still scares me 2 years later. On my street, there's an old Victorian house a couple blocks away from mine. I don't know when it was built, but it definitely isn't of this era. Anyway, I used to go for long walks on the weekends just to reflect and get some sun. While walking one Saturday, I strolled past the old house on my way to the intersection at the end of my street. As I passed the house, I heard someone call out to me. I turned around and saw a young girl sitting under one of the big oak trees in the front yard. She looked about the same age as me and was kinda cute. I walked over and started talking to her. She told me that her name was Abby and that she lives in the house with her single mother. We talked for a bit, and she told me that she had a passion for flowers, and her favorite flower was the sunflower. She was about 12 years old, and she had a dream of becoming a movie star in Hollywood. I chuckled when she told me that, and told her I hoped she makes it. We talked for a little longer, and then I continued my walk. Each weekend thereafter, I would see her sitting under the same tree, reading a book. She would always wave at me and say hi. I would talk to her for a little while before continuing. The only thing that struck me as odd is that she always seemed to be in the same spot whenever I saw her. Also, I never saw her in school, not once, but I just assumed that she was homeschooled by her mother. One Saturday, a couple of months after I met her, I went out for my usual walk. As I passed her house, I saw that she wasn't under the tree. In fact, she was nowhere to be seen. I didn't think anything of it. I assumed that she just decided to read inside that day and continued on. For the next few weeks, whenever I walked past her house, she wouldn't be outside. One day, about 4 weeks since I stopped seeing her, I decided to knock on the door and ask her if she wanted to hang out. I knocked on the door, and a few minutes later, a middle-aged woman opened the door. She had shoulder-length, dirty blonde hair, and even though she looked like she was in her 50s, her face looked incredibly wrinkled. I asked her if Abby was home, and she gave me a concerned look. She said, "I'm sorry, sweetie, but my daughter died 10 years ago. She was hit by a drunk driver when she was walking home from school." My stomach churned when I heard this. "But then, who was that person I was talking to under your big tree?" I asked, pointing to the tree in the backyard. The woman said, "That's her favorite tree. She loved to sit at the trunk and read under its shade." Please excuse me." With that, she shut the door in my face. I just stood there for a few minutes, trying to process what was just told. That meant that I had spent the past couple of months talking to a ghost. No, that doesn't make sense. She looked so real. I couldn't see through her. She wasn't in a mist or fog. She looked so normal. I walked home after that, not really in the mood to go for a walk anymore. I sometimes think about her and how unreal the whole experience was. I never saw her again, but I wasn't exactly searching for her given what happened. My family and I decided to move about a year later. The last day we were staying in the house, I was in the kitchen getting a snack when I heard the doorbell ring. We were expecting a package from UPS, so I assumed it was them. I went over to the door and looked through the peephole. There was no one there. Ding-dong ditcher, I thought. I opened the door and looked around. I then looked down, and a shiver went down my spine. There, on the welcome mat, was a sunflower. It appears that Abby left it there as one last goodbye. It's been 2 years, and I still think about her to this day. Number 3. My friends and I were trick-or-treating in my neighborhood on Halloween night. My neighborhood has a lot of children and teenagers in it, so on Halloween night the streets are completely mobbed. Me and my friends, Colin and Jim, were heading downtown toward some of the wealthier homes, since richer families can afford bigger candy. Halloween was on a Saturday that year, so we stayed out longer than normal getting candy. As we were heading toward the wealthy neighborhood, we passed by an old abandoned house. It was rumored by all the neighborhood kids that the house was haunted. According to the rumors, there was a family that lived there in the late 1900s. The wife apparently found out that the husband was having an affair with a 20-year-old woman. The couple got divorced, and the wife gained custody of the house and her 2 children. The husband got angry, and one day he broke into the house and murdered his ex-wife and children with an axe before shooting himself in the head with a handgun. It is said that the ghosts of the murder victims haunt the house, including the deranged husband. My friends and I fully believed that story, so when we walked past the house, we decided to go inside and look around. We jumped the fence surrounding the property and entered the house through a broken kitchen window. The house smelled very dusty and moldy, and it didn't seem like we were the first ones to enter the house, as there were graffiti tags and smashed beer bottles all over the kitchen. We walked through the kitchen and into the living room. All the furniture had been removed, and the room was covered in cobwebs and dust. We were shining the lights we had brought with us around the room, when we heard the floorboards squeaking above us. We were certain that someone else was up there. Colin and I wanted to leave, but Jim wanted to go up there and check it out. We tried to get him to come with us, but he ignored our pleas and went up the stairs. Colin and I couldn't just leave him there, so we went to the stairs and waited for him at the bottom. While we were waiting, Colin and I both detected a strange, putrid smell. It was everywhere. Suddenly, a car drove by the house, and as its headlights flashed through the windows, I saw a dark figure standing in the hallway facing us. I gasped and grabbed Colin's arm, and a blood-curdling scream echoed from upstairs. We looked and saw Jim sprinting back down the stairs. He told us to run, and we didn't ask any questions. We ran back into the kitchen, out the window we came from, and didn't stop running until we made it back to my house. The 3 of us were pretty much in hysterics, and we tried to calm down and figure out what happened back there. I told Colin and Jim about the figure I saw in the hallway, and what Jim told me made me all the more glad we left when we did. Jim told us that when he was upstairs looking around, he smelled something foul, like rotting meat. Before he could find the source of the smell, he felt hot breath against the back of his neck. Simultaneously, he felt a hand with extremely sharp nails pinch the back of his neck. Jim screamed out of both pain and fear and instinctively ran back downstairs to us. We unanimously decided that Halloween was over for us. We still talk about this night every now and again, and I have promised myself that I will never go back to that cursed house as long as I live. There is evil in that house beyond comprehension. What's up, everybody? This is the Lone Wolf here. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed these 3 stories. I figured that some ghost stories and haunted house stories would be perfect for Hallows Eve, so I hope you enjoyed what you heard. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications, and join the Lone Wolf Pack. If you guys want to send me a message, I will leave a link in the description for my Gmail account, so if you have a personal scary story you want to share with me, or a creepypasta you want me to read, go ahead and send me a recommendation, and I'll use it in a future video. If you're curious about the music that I used, I will also leave links in the description for the artists that I use, as well as the specific tracks, in case you want to listen to them for yourself. And of course, if you have any constructive criticism, feel free to leave me a comment. I'm always looking for new ways to make this channel even better, and I welcome all ideas. Until next time, you guys, stay spooky. And remember, the hunt begins when the moon is full. Happy Halloween.